Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I'm going to be letting you know exactly what is my favorite premium tank inside the game, and it is this, the Tier 9 American turreted tank destroyer. It is the TL-7. Now a lot of you might be thinking, oh hold on, why is this your favorite premium in the game, Uncle Scrublord? Well, there's a variety of reasons why I've really been enjoying this tank. Firstly, let me commentate on the fact that I am taking a filthy loadout here. I hardly ever, probably about 1 in 100 or kind of like more like 1 in several hundred games, load full gold. And that is because I'm going for my third mark of excellence on this tank, and I was at about 94%. So possibly, if we have a gigantic game here, we might be able to get that third mark on the barrel and then be able to stop loading full gold. A tank like this does do much better with premium rounds. The premium penetration on this tank is 315 compared to 252 on your standard rounds, so having that roughly 25% upgrade transitions this tank from being something that has to aim at weak points to really can just bludgeon its way through thick armor. Now, with that all said and done, let me talk about why I love the TL-7. Well, firstly, it's got to be the Tier 9 matchmaking. All of the Tier 8 premium tanks inside the game are nice, they're fun, they can be an enjoyable experience, but Tier 8 matchmaking is just so boring for me. I talked all about this in a video that I released a couple of weeks ago. I think +0, -0 is mind-numbing. I can't play the game as much as I would want to, or as much as my stream would want to, and still have fun fighting the same tanks, with the same tanks, going into the same positions again and again and again. I feel like the more variety there is in the matchup, the more enjoyable it is for me. And so that's why I hardly ever play Tier 8 premiums anymore. It's not because the Tier 9s are better, but it's because Tier 9 matchmaking, at least for me, has not been ruined by just all of the same kind of vehicles that you get at Tier 8 again and again and again. And the other reason why I enjoy the TL-7 is for things like this. Going in and dumping 1,377 damage, and that was with 3 out of 4 shells low rolling on this tank to a Tier 10 tank. Sure, I had to take a hit from the IS-7. He deals on average 490 to me, but if I deal on average 1,440 to him, those are some pretty good trades. And when you're a Tier 9 tank destroyer with a fully traversable turret, this thing, it really blurs the lines between giving your team another medium tank. Kind of feels a bit more like an Astron Rex within that regard. Or some of the other auto-loading mediums, like a bit like the T-54E1 back in the day when that thing was a medium, when it was a bit faster. The TL-7 has decent speed, 50 forwards, 15 backwards. The power to weight ratio is 17, so it makes this thing absolutely positively mobile. When you combine that with the second field mod, tank destroyers get amazing field mods, by the way. It has 15% better not dispersion when moving, ground resistances. Those ground resistances literally translate into, as soon as you get that second field mod, this thing is massively faster, and so it can get around very quickly indeed. When you add onto that the fact that it does very well with the experimental mobility that you see me using, now the top speed will be 54 forwards, and also that experimental mobility will improve its bloom after firing by up to 6%. And remember, this stacks with the rotation device. Since Wargaming put in the Bond rotation device that I got from, I think, a year ago in their anniversary, the 12th anniversary of World of Tanks being released in Europe. If you completed a series of missions, you could get the tokens, you could get that for the very first time. Since then, I believe you can get it in Onslaught, and it absolutely revolutionizes how you can play auto-loading tank destroyers. You'll see that a tank which is meant to have really big bloom, 0.28 when moving and when turning the tank, and pretty bad bloom after firing of 3, just gets into as if the vehicle was using vert stabs. There's a reason why tank destroyers can't use vert stabs in World of Tanks, and that's because Wargaming don't want tank destroyers to drive around and have medium tank gun handling or heavy tank gun handling. However, with the game giving you the tools to be able to effectively kind of have vertical stabilizers on a tank destroyer in 2024, or it's been possible since 2023, with 17.5% reduced dispersion on the rotation device, and then up to like 6% on the mobility, then you're kind of packing 23% reduced dispersion when moving, when firing, when turning the turret, and that's as if you are using vertical stabilizers inside a firepower slot on this tank. So that means that this tank scales so incredibly well with the equipment that you put on it. And as you can see, I've got perfect equipment, everything apart from I don't think I have the level 3 on the experimental turbo yet. So it's going to get a little bit better when I manage that. So I use intuition to switch out to a high explosive mag here. And that's because I'm going after a full health WTR Panzer IV. It has no armor. We hit for 500. We hit for a very low roll of 390 after that. And I can see his gun's broken, so I'm just going to sit there and dump the 4th shell in. Take a little bit more damage to artillery, and that's really irritating. That's 400 damage. I've lost that 212A, but boy, was that a spicy magazine. That's why I always take 1 mag of HE on this tank in case you have to go after an FE405. In case you have to go after a WTR Panzer IV. And if you manage to pen all of those HE shells, yeah, it's got 460 average damage, so you are not that much shy of 1,900, or like 1,800, 1,840. That is a lot of damage that you can deal in 6.9 seconds. This vehicle has, because its intra-click reload is like 2.3. It is a voracious little damage dealer. And as we can see with the gun handling here, and if I didn't have that fancy equipment, the bloom would be massive. So this is the kind of vehicle that, as I said, just scales so well with the equipment that you use. So all the way through this battle, it was looking like a loss was imminent. We were down by pretty much kind of like 7,000 hit points, and then we kept losing HP, the enemy losing HP as well, and we're still down with half of the hit points that the enemy team have. And even though I've only taken 1 shot from an IS-7, somehow I'm down to a 1 shot for the E100 and definitely a 1 shot for the FE405. So unfortunately, having dumped that magazine of HE earlier, I'm not going to have the HE mag for the FE405, but as long as I put all 4 shots in, I should be able to destroy the FE405 as they've got 1,318, and this is just the dream, right? Holding down your left mouse button, absolutely murdering the Tier 10 turreted tank destroyer. But talk about murder. That object 212A removes another 400 hit points from me. Can you believe it? They've done about 800 damage to me this game. Well played to the arty, focusing a vehicle that is having a pretty big impact in this game. So once again, we're still down by 4,000 hit points. The E100 is trying to chase me. Do they manage to spot me there? Oh, thank goodness they didn't actually manage to see me. So that means that I can finish reloading. And as you can see, Adrenaline Rush is procced in the middle of the bottom of the screen. And so that means that the horrible reload that this vehicle has, it is a very lengthy reload of 43 seconds on this tank. But it does get a little bit better now that we do have that Adrenaline Rush. But when you get to clap in shells on the side of an E100, the full gold here manages to put 1,088 damage in. And we're going to go for a full reload now. I'm going to sit in this bush because I think at the time I knew that there was an artillery up there. I think I saw one of the shells come overhead. And the last thing that I want to do is actually spot the arty while I'm reloading. Because if I spot the arty while I'm reloading, if it's the batch at 15555, which it most likely is because the 212A was spotted over towards the west, then I'm not going to be able to destroy them before they run away. So I poke forwards just as I finish reloading. And probably a little bit of a misplay there, as now I can't even get the clean shot into the batch at 15555, who is going to make the runner now. And imagine if I'd poked up there before I was nearly done with my mag, I wouldn't have the clean shots here. Maybe the artillery would escape. So we knock out their driver, fail to track them, the second shot goes in, and whoa man, this is looking like a spicy game. 6,700 damage is a great game for any tank, let alone a tier 9 TD that has bad damage per minute at 1,700. But if you get into these situations where you get to just drive around and deliver those mags, it doesn't really matter how bad the damage per minute is, as long as you do have that time to be able to store it up. And if you've got 1,440 once you reach the, hopefully the relatively healthy tank on the enemy team, oh, it just feels so satisfying. Pretty much this whole game has just been multiple mags. We had a mag on the IS-7, a mag on the 705A, an HE mag on the WTR Panzer IV, a mag on the FE405, and then 3 shots into the E100. And here's another full health tier 9 tank destroyer, American as well. But can you believe just how different these vehicles are? Both of them tier 9 American tank destroyers. One with a turret and an autoloader, the other with very thick armor, slow, cumbersome but with a gigantic 155mm caliber gun that you don't want to get caught in front of. However, it's a game of cat and mouse. We track the T-95. I'm worried about the FE-405 going after me. I'm also worried about where the artillery could be, so I want to try and get forwards to get into cover from the rock. I'm hoping that maybe I can get the tracking shot into this T-95 so I can be able to progress, because they've used their repair kit, which means they're vulnerable for the next 95 seconds. Okay, somebody managed to get the tracking shot, so I'm going to make a play. Keep an eye on the FE-405 to make sure they're not going to be able to get me. But unfortunately, even though this T-95 hasn't got the durability device, and we can tell because of the amount of hit points that they have, they are still managing to repair their track pretty quickly. So maybe they're using a large repair kit, maybe they just got a really good crew, or maybe they're using kind of some protection technology, or maybe I was just a little bit slow. Luckily, we're spotting for the Leopard as we are going for our marks. I'm happy to get that 424 assistance, and I'm just looking for the angle on the T-95, and there's one into the side of their tank, second to finish them off, and I'm going to hold this last shell, and boy, what a gigantic game, and what a gigantic comeback. And oh, you couldn't get me like the 5th or 6th time, or however much you've managed to hit me, 212A. Too little, too late for you. We're trying to feather here, just looking for that last shot, hoping that we're going to be able to catch it. It wasn't to be, as the FE-3805 deals with the 212A on the enemy team. And whoa, ladies and gents, this was a massive round of World of Tanks with 7,800 combined. And this is why this tank is my favorite go-to money maker inside World of Tanks. Now let me clarify, there are probably more powerful premium tanks that you could play, especially at tier 8. But this thing, once you set it up, at least in my opinion correctly, or at least how what works for me, this thing transcends into an absolute little powerhouse. And it really shows you that there are certain tanks in the game that Wargaming have balanced statistically, but as soon as you start to get the really fancy equipment on them, they scale into god tier tanks. But before all of you jump to be able to get yourself the TL-7, results may vary. The TL-7 has a completely average win ratio of 49.56, right in the middle of all of the tier 9 tank destroyers. And if we look at its win ratio difference, it is significantly down on the list, below a lot of the regular tier 9 tank destroyers, let alone the premium ones. But that suits me. If the majority of people aren't making this work, and they aren't that popular inside the matchmaker, people aren't going to know about them, which will allow TL-7 players like myself to perhaps surprise their opponents with that big old 1,440 damage magazine. So, ladies and gents, this was my ace tanker and my 3rd mark of excellence for the TL-7 for this whopping 7,800 combined game. And even though we fired full gold, we still made 176,000 credits profit as we were using a credit booster. And even without a premium account, this would have still been 114,000 credits profit. So it shows you that as long as you aren't missing the gold rounds, if you hit 23 out of 23 and 22 of those manage to penetrate, you're still making good credits with or without a premium account status. Nevertheless, this will be the last game in the TL-7 where I do spam full gold, although one of the mags, at least in this game, was HE, as soon as that 3rd mark is achieved, there's no way to lose it, and so the try-harding can relax a little bit. Anyway, that's it for today, ladies and gents. Hope you enjoyed this gigantic comeback and a suitably massive game for the TL-7. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down, and let me know in the comments down below, what is your favorite premium tank and why? And if you're watching this video as it's released on Sunday, later on today there will be the Tech Tree Showcase featuring the Stridsvagn 103B on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. So come along and see all of the Swedish tank destroyers. A fantastic combination of high damage per minute and amazing accuracy can result in some pretty massive performances. Although, just like with the TL-7, results may vary. Anyway, looking forward to seeing you all live right now. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.